Hi, friends. Today we're going to talk about the books that I read in July. Buckle up, buckaroos, because it was not a very highly rated reading month. The first book that I finished in July is Fearless by Lauren Roberts. This is the third book in the Powerless series. It was okay. I'm glad that I am caught up in the series, but if she publishes more books for the series, I don't think I'll be picking them up. I don't want to go into too much detail about what it's about because it is the third book in the series, but you are following the main characters from the first book in this, and things get a little wild. The next book that I read is The Wishing Game by Meg Shafer. This book is about a woman named Lucy, and she is a teacher. She's trying to adopt one of her students. There's a little weirdness with that, but she's trying to adopt one of her students, and she finds out that her favorite author of a very popular book series has written the last book of his series, and he's having a competition for publication rights for the series. Lucy knows that if she is able to compete and win, she will get the funds to adopt this little boy that she loves very much. This book was alright. I gave it a 3 stars. It is very found family. It reminded me of the Inheritance games, but also kind of like Willy Wonka because there's some weirdness on the island. Not like Oompa Loompa weirdness, but just the games that they play, and that this world this author has built is half finished. He seems not necessarily against family, but there's like a weird family thing with him as well. So, little Willy Wonka-esque and little Inheritance games-esque there. But overall, I enjoyed it. I gave it a 3. I don't think I'll be keeping this book though. The next book that I read is How to Solve Your Own Murder by Kristen Perrin. Honestly, this book was a little forgettable, but it's about this woman who is convinced that she's going to die in a very specific way, like she's going to be murdered, and so she ends up trying to solve who's going to murder her before it happens, and she has left clues behind for the person in the present day after she's murdered. We don't know if she's murdered or not, to solve what happened, if it was actually a suicide or if it was a murder. And it turns out that it was a murder, hence the name of the book. But it is for fans of Knives Out and the Thursday Murder Club. I really liked Knives Out. Thursday Murder Club was okay for me, and this book was okay for me too. I gave it a 2.5 stars. It's very forgettable, and I think there wasn't enough to keep me interested or invested in these characters. They just felt very flat for me. Next, I read Say You'll Remember Me by Abbi Jimenez. Abbi Jimenez is an auto-buy author for me at this point. I really enjoy her romances. The Part of Your World series was fantastic. His book really fell short for me. Say You'll Remember Me is about Xavier and Samantha. Xavier is a veterinarian, and he ends up meeting Samantha as a client. She brings in her kitten, and he tells her basically this cat's not going to live. Samantha's like, okay, bet. And so she ends up starting GoFundMe, and she saves this cat's life and goes back just to show off her cat to Xavier, and they ask each other out. They go on a date, and they really like each other, but Samantha is moving home to help take care of her mom, who has early onset dementia. This book is hard. This book is frustratingly difficult because you want everything to work out for this couple, and they keep saying no, 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 no. Like, there's all sorts of little things that are getting in the way, and it's just super frustrating. Like, when I read a romance, I want it to be light and fluffy and cute. Don't get me wrong, I don't mind the difficult family aspects, but these people have met each other twice, they go on a date, and then they decide that they're in love. That's what it feels like anyway. Didn't like that part. I think the banter between the two characters are really cute, but the family dynamic for Samantha's family is just beyond frustrating because she moves home to take care of her mom and nobody else is helping, and she calls them out on their BS like multiple times, and they still don't really do anything. Yeah. Anyway, I ended up giving this book a 3.5 stars. I have appreciated her other books more than this one. Alright, next I read Witchcraft for Wayward Girls. This book is set in the 1960s, and it is about this home for pregnant teenagers. They go there to be basically kept from society as the dirty little secret. They are housed there, they work there, and they also go to school there. So they are not to interact with any of the town. The only interaction they have is there's a van that comes with books brought to them by the public library. Our main character, Fern, is given a book, and it is called like the Groovy Guide to Witchcraft or something similar to that. And she thinks it's a joke, but they end up just seeing if it's real or not, and it works. So they decide that they're going to start practicing witchcraft, and things go awry. This book could have been a little tiny bit shorter, but I did enjoy it. I gave it a 3.5 stars. The next book that I read is Finley Donovan Digs Her Own Grave. This is the 5th book in the Finley Donovan series, which is crazy. I feel like I just started reading these books last year, and we're already on book number 5. If you don't know, Finley Donovan is this woman, and she is a single mom, struggling writer, and in the first book, she ends up getting involved in some crazy shenanigans where somebody tries to hire her as a hit woman, and that husband actually turns up dead. So now we've gone through 3 other books and a companion novel, and now we are in book 5 where a lot of stuff has gone down. But basically, Finley's across the street neighbor, who is the nosy busybody of the neighborhood, has been accused of murdering somebody because there's a dead body that turns up in her yard, and she ends up having to move in with Finley. And Finley and Miss Haggerty do not get along, so there is a lot of tension in the house and funny banter. It's so cute. I love that each book that we've been reading adds a new character to the group, to the gang. I love these books. I can't get enough of these books, and I am so excited for the next installment. I don't know when it comes out, but I will be reading it. I gave Finley Donovan Digs Her Own Grave a 4.5 stars. The next book that I finished is The Nice Guy by Abbi Sabine. This book is about a woman named Madison, and she is coming from Dallas. She's moving to work in her uncle's veterinary practice, and her uncle drops the bomb that he's going to retire and wants to make her partner to take over his half of the clinic. And her other partner is Ivan, and they both find each other very attractive. So as you can imagine, there is an office romance. That sounds like the perfect setup, an office romance set at a veterinary clinic. How cute. But the execution definitely fell flat for me. There were some really cute moments in this book and funny moments that actually did make me laugh aloud, but I think with the multiple points of view, I didn't like being stuck in either one of their heads, because all I kept thinking was, they're so hot, but I can't be with them. They're so attractive, but I can't be with them. And then all of a sudden, that flew out the window because they just kissed. And they're like, oh, let's have an workplace romance. It fell flat for me. I did end up finishing the book, but I have a vlog coming out about it, and you guys can listen to my more detailed thoughts on that when it comes out. I ended up giving this book a 2-star. The next book that I read is Nightbane, and this is the 2nd book in the Lightlark series. We are still following Isla, and she is becoming more powerful. She's training, and without giving the ending of Lightlark away, she has a lot going on for her. And I have been happy to return to this world and watch her grow as a character, watch her become stronger, and also kind of get more groundwork of what went on behind the scenes before she got to the competition, because there is a little bit more backstory in this book. I gave this book a 4 stars. I liked Lightlark just a little bit better, but I still really enjoyed Nightbane. The next book that I read is The Lake of Lost Girls. This was a book club pick a couple months ago, and my library finally just lent it to me, and I'm so glad that I did decide to read it, even if it was a little late. The Lake of Lost Girls by Catherine Green is about this woman named Lindsay, and she grew up in a small town knowing that her sister and a handful of other women went missing. It was told that these girls just ran away and that there was no foul play, but when a body turns up in the lake, they discover that maybe this was actually murder. There's a podcast element to this book, so I really enjoyed listening to that on audiobook. Poor Lindsay is just living in her sister's shadow. Her sister went missing, as well as these 3 other girls, and the whole time you're kind of waiting for them to dredge up Jessica, her sister's body. And let me tell you, I didn't see one of the twists coming. There's a couple twists at the end, and I didn't see one of them coming, but I did enjoy this book. I think it was very reminiscent of Society of Lies and The Maidens, so if you liked those books, I would definitely pick this one up. Next, I read Dr. Sleep by Stephen King. This is the sequel to The Shining, so we are following the little boy from The Shining, Danny, all grown up in this book. He ends up having to get involved with a bunch of people because he has The Shining, his powers. And I loved the ride in this book. If you guys just watch my Finishing Every Series vlog, I go into a lot of detail about my thoughts on this book, and I really, really enjoyed this one. I ended up giving this book 4 stars. The last book that I read in July is Kills Well with Others. This is the prequel to Killers of a Certain Age. In both of these books, we are following a group of badass assassins that are retirement age, and even though they are old, they still kick butt. In this book, we go on quite a few heists, but I have more detailed thoughts in my Finishing Every Series vlog if you would like to know that. I ended up giving Kills Well with Others 3 stars. Alright, time for statistics. This is probably my favorite part of the month, when I get to sit down and look at all my numbers and just feel accomplished. But I finished 11 books in the month of July. I read 2 physical, 8 audio, and 1 ebook. I read a total of 4,402 pages. That's an average of 142 pages per day, which is a lot higher than my previous averages have been. It took me about 3.9 days to finish a book, not including The Nice Guy. My average would have gone way up if I included that. My average rating was a 3.14. Really low, really low. I read 9 female authors, 2 male authors, and 4 new-to-me authors. I read 1 YA and 10 adults. I read 2 fantasy, which is kind of a bummer, and 1 contemporary, 2 romance, and 6 thriller, horror, mystery, suspense novels. It's all going to be thrown in there. But yes, I read 6 of those books, which is crazy. And honestly, I feel like I could have included Dr. Sleep with the fantasy aspect, but it felt more of a horror to me, so I included it in there instead. My favorite book of the month was Finley Donovan Digs Her Own Grave, because I literally just giggle when I read these books. They just make my heart so happy. Even though there are super tense moments, and I do get worried for these characters sometimes. I just love these characters. I love them. And you know what? In the fifth book, she lays it all out on the line. Literally all out on the line. And somehow she makes it through. If you know, you know. So thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you soon in a new video. Happy reading. Where are we at, home slices? What am I talking about? What am I talking about? This is not Willy Wonka. It feels like Willy Wonka, though. I don't remember. They're somewhere in the Mid-East. Mid-East? There's some... Oh my god. This is the prequel, sequel. This is a story all about how. Alright, editing Abby, do your magic.